It's a big week of new releases with a couple of throwback titles, sequels, scary games, cozy games, and much more, so let's begin with Escape the Mad Empire, a long in development pixel art roguelite dungeon crawler, which I thought was vaporware at one point, so it's good to see the game make it to release, having classic CRPG, turn-based with pause combat, think Neverwinter Nights, but with procedurally generated dungeons and a run-based structure. Create your party of 4 characters from 13 classes, battling enemies, getting loot and leveling up, with a permanent progression system in between runs and has awesome art. Speaking of awesome art, Maliki Poison of the Past is a classic turn-based JRPG with a time manipulation mechanic in which the turn order bar is visible on screen and your attacks, abilities, and combos can disrupt this, forcing enemies backwards to allow your characters to move first. There's a main sanctuary hub area where you can grow crops, craft and upgrade, reminding me of Earthlock Festival of Magic, along with some character portraits that look very Toriyama inspired, with this being the first foray into video games for French webcomic Maliki, so it's no wonder that the art shines through. This video is brought to you by Summit Steps of Solace, a 2D pixel art precision platformer in which you embark on a demanding ascent up a perilous mountain, with platforming action that challenges your reflexes and determination. You are armed with dual pickaxes, which allow you to grab and climb vertical surfaces with the usual array of hazards including spikes, pits, ice and wind to contend with on your ascent. Luckily, you will get access to additional tools like a grappling hook to help, with optional collectibles for the extra level of challenge. The journey is not just physical but also emotional, as you uncover the reason behind the character's unwavering resolve to reach the summit, with this being the Steam release of a game that previously released on the Playdate handheld, enhanced with additional content, so if interested, try the free demo on Steam and wishlist the game. Automation game fans, I'm pretty sure Outworld Station will be of interest, a space station factory builder in which you are appointed as the station commander in the uncharted Tau system, tasked with constructing a sprawling industrial empire across multiple planets. Begin by mining asteroids and deploying cloud miners to gather essential resources, and then process these materials into advanced components, eventually establishing intricate supply chains and automating your stations to achieve peak efficiency. Construct a variety of starships, each requiring unique manufacturing techniques to fulfill objectives and unlock advanced technologies, including defense against alien threats. It seems ambitious in a manner similar to Dyson's Spear program, in that you will be able to build multiple stations on different planets and connect them via wormholes to create an interstellar network, but to what ultimate end I'm not sure. In addition to the core factory building, there is an exploration element where you can find mysterious alien artifacts which unlock powerful upgrades for your station and drones as you send your ships into uncharted territory, with there, interestingly, having up to 4-player online PvE co-op support as well, so maybe satisfactory like in nature, but from a different perspective. Co-op game fans might be familiar with the original BOKURA from 2023, a 2-player co-op only title with almost 8,000 Steam reviews as of the time of recording, so it is fairly popular, with that telling the tale of 2 runaway boys, but where the game plays out over multiple worlds and the developers are back with BOKURA Planet. You and a partner play as 2 prisoners who crash land on a mysterious planet after a space expedition gone awry and must work together to navigate challenges and uncover the planet's secrets. It requires communication and collaboration, as each player experiences the world differently, with you and your partner seeing different things on each of your screens. But instead of having separate dimensions as in the original, this introduces hidden objectives for each player. This twist adds layers of complexity, as players must decide how much to reveal or conceal from their partner, testing trust and cooperation. And additionally, you can interact with each other through a push mechanic, which is as advertised, where getting the timing wrong might just kill you. I read a developer interview on this game, which is rather interesting since they wanted people who are not lonely to experience loneliness despite it being a co-op title and is quite the read. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. We also have the long-awaited release of Post-Trauma, a horror game, yes, but more of a puzzle horror title instead of survival horror. Our protagonist is Roman, a middle-aged train conductor who awakens in a surreal, nightmarish dimension following a severe panic attack. Trapped in a world of grotesque architecture and lurking abominations, he must navigate this twisted reality, confronting his deepest fears to uncover the truth and to find a way back to his family. While it has that classic survival horror influence like fixed camera angles, retro aesthetic, and some combat, it self-describes as puzzle horror where you need to rely on your observation skills and intuition since clues are subtly embedded within the surroundings, encouraging careful exploration. The narrative unfolds through solving these puzzles and progressing forward, gradually revealing how the world came to be, having some of the freakiest monster designs that I have seen, and looks like it's for fans of the genre. Other games begin with Amerzone the Explorer's Legacy, or more specifically, a remake of a game from 1999, where you step into the shoes of a journalist dispatched to a forgotten Latin American country to fulfill the dying wish of an aging explorer. Your mission? Return the last egg of the mythical great white birds to their native habitat. It is a first-person adventure game with a point-and-click interface, which is not that common these days, being largely puzzle-focused with an optional investigation system that allows you to delve deeper into the lore. A comprehensive in-game diary tracks objectives, clues, and collected documents, with the story unfolding through interactions with complex characters as well as exploration of the environments. I did not play the original, but it has a 73% rating on game rankings, so this remake might be worth checking out. One look at ASURA the Striker and you can see Space Harrier in this, a 3D on-rails shooter from a behind-the-back camera angle, where you control ASURA, a humanoid combat weapon fighting off an alien invasion threatening Earth. The action looks awesome, with a variety of ranged and melee attacks as well as special abilities like being able to slow down time when levels have multiple paths, which offers some replayability along with great art, not exactly modern since it still has some throwback influence, but definitely not that retro arcade style where things do have a funny way of coming around full circle. The latest entry in the cozy bottom-of-screen idle game is Cornerpond, a fishing game which has been done before, but with the innovation that it is in the bottom right corner instead of taking up the entire bottom part of the screen. You are playing a little clicking mini-game in order to reel the fish in, getting money to purchase upgrades, and even has a leveling and XP system, being a low-stakes and chill title. Although I can see how the notification sound when you get a bite can quickly get irritating and distract you from another task. Also, it does have sound effects that do sound a little too much like Stardew Valley, but I suppose there are only so many fishing reel sounds that you can use, so if you're a fan of this style of game, this might be of note. Another popular subgenre is co-op horror, with the latest entry being Darkwater, but this is not exactly a Lethal Company-like, since 1 to 4 players are working together to pilot a submarine trapped beneath the frozen ocean of an alien moon. Not only do you have to navigate the icy depths and manage your vessel's systems, but also there are other hostile entities and rival submarines to contend with. You can dock your vessel to abandoned outposts in order to scavenge for essential resources like fuel and credits, which are vital for upgrading your submarine and ensuring your crew's survival. But there might be infected divers or alien creatures lurking within. As you sail around, you might get into combat encounters with rival submarines, which then switches to a sonar-like screen where you are using torpedoes, harpoons, depth charges, and more to battle your adversary, but can also board the enemy vessel for first-person combat. It is not super clear, but I believe those rival ships are CPU controlled and not by other players, meaning that this is co-op only instead of PvP, and is being published by PlayStack, who also publish Balatro, so there might be something to this game. If you love tower defense instead, Desperate Place will be of note, in which you awaken prematurely on a damaged colonization starship forced to make an emergency landing on an uncharted planet, and now have to gather resources, repair the ship, and defend against waves of alien creatures in order to survive and escape. I guess it might be considered to be more base defense instead of tower defense, since it sure looks more like an RTS instead of a lane-based defense title, but does have similar gameplay elements of constructing and upgrading defensive structures while managing resources efficiently. As you progress, you'll unlock new technologies and fortifications, enhancing your abilities to withstand the relentless onslaught, having a neat sci-fi theme and a good look. This week also sees the return of Monster Prom, the multiplayer visual novel dating sim with a cast of, shall we say, attractive monster characters in Monster Prom 4 Monster Con, this time being set at the nerdiest convention ever. If you're familiar with the series, this looks to be more of the same, with their trademark absurd situations, humorous writing, and memorable characters. But if you have not played this, perhaps check out the first game to get a feel for this developer's work. There are 6 monsters here, some familiar faces as well as new ones, which I believe includes the cosplay-loving Mimic and the idol Clown, where the characters provide unique challenges and storylines to explore. This edition also introduces new mechanics, including the opportunity to create your own comic book, which unfolds based on the choices you make throughout the convention and will get to see after the end of a run, and is one of the notable series in this space. A sick looking title in both sense of the word is Necrophosis, a first-person horror adventure game set in a nightmarish realm where decay permeates every facet of existence. This is inspired by Polish artist, and pardon my pronunciation if I get it wrong, Zdzisław Beksinski, and at least based on a cursory glance on Google Images, seems to have nailed exactly what they are going for, down to the intricate details and especially the colour palette. The world is filled with all sorts of horrible creatures with grotesque forms, as well as reality-warping eerie landscapes where you will encounter enigmatic puzzles and haunting narratives while you explore. However, nothing on the Steam page gives any clue about the story or what the hell is really going on, so that's a big question mark going in, but what an art direction, similar to the Geiger-inspired Scorn, although that game did have some shooting, whereas this is puzzle focused. A now adorable looking title is Neongarten, where it did undergo quite a dramatic change in visual style as compared to when this was first revealed, and is a roguelite city builder inspired by Islanders and Luck Be a Landlord. You play as an architect tasked with revitalizing a derelict city block in a cyberpunk city, having to construct a thriving and self-contained area within a confined 4x4 grid. Each turn, you are given a choice of blocks to place down, having to find complementary buildings to be placed next to each other, such as parks near residences for added bonuses, requiring careful planning and adaptation to changes. Roguelite-style procedural generation ensures that no two playthroughs are identical, offering endless replayability and strategic depth while still being fairly light-hearted and accessible in the Islanders kind of way, and looks like a fun strategy title and is the hidden gem of the week. Developer Wadjet Eye Games is one of the torch-bearers carrying on the classic LucasArts style point-and-click adventure game into the modern age, but have managed to put their own spin on things with new underlying mechanics, which is why their next title, Old Skies, is of note. You play as Fia Quinn, a time agent for the Chrono Zen agency tasked with overseeing clients who journey into the past. Your mission involves ensuring that these time travelers adhere to strict guidelines, preventing any alterations to historical events, with this covering 7 trips through time to unique time periods over 2 centuries, including settings like Prohibition-era speakeasies, the Gilded Age, and the morning of September 11, 2001 at the World Trade Center. This point-and-click adventure game emphasizes narrative and character interactions since each client presents unique challenges requiring you to solve puzzles that often involve temporal logic. For instance, you might need to manipulate past events to influence future outcomes, all while avoiding paradoxes, with the clients themselves having different motives, some who are just curious about the past, while others have some unfinished business to resolve. Unlike classic adventure game, there is a fail state here and the game allows for character death, but time travel mechanics enables you to retry scenarios, adding, dare I say, more gameplay to the genre. There will also be full voice acting in this game, bringing depth to its diverse cast of characters, so a lot of work has gone into this and will be for fans of the genre. A cool-looking 3D platformer is Once Upon a Puppet, in which you control a floating hand and a puppet as they navigate the mysterious understage of the Kingdom of Theatre, bound together by a magical thread. The 2-character setup is not just cosmetic, but where puppeteering allows you to control both characters, each with distinct abilities essential for progression, as you solve intricate puzzles and overcome platforming challenges to return to the front stage, manipulate props, backdrops, and characters to reconstruct theatrical scenes, and encounter a diverse troupe of characters with hundreds of lines of handcrafted dialogue and face off against villainous creatures determined to extinguish the spotlight, all set against a rich orchestral soundtrack and looks well made. A fun-looking survival crafting title following in the footsteps of games like Valheim is Oppidum, in which you are summoned to an island as its last hope, having to fight back against a corrupting force to save the land. Your journey begins by establishing a camp that serves as your base of operations, where you can craft equipment, construct buildings, tend to crops and animals, and prepare for the challenges ahead. Venture out to gather resources and battle enemies across diverse biomes, ranging from lush forests to treacherous swamps, each with their own challenges and secrets to uncover. Central to the gameplay is the collection and utilization of tamai, a unique energy source that fuels both the land and your abilities. Get to know the NPCs, take on quests, and heal a fractured society, bringing together diverse groups to then form a unified front against the corruption, with this, of course, having co-op support for up to 4 players and looks fun, even if visually it does resemble Fortnite in terms of aesthetic. An interesting looking action-adventure RPG is Rise of Rebellion, which I believe comes to us from a Chinese developer, where our protagonist is on a quest to reclaim your hometown from divine retribution. The Steam store page might have been machine translated or something, so it doesn't quite make sense, but basically this is an action title with a focus on melee combat, as you chain attacks together to break the enemy guard and to execute powerful combos. It is half a Souls-like in the sense that attacks do not consume stamina, but dodging and using special abilities will, mostly retaining that deadly dance that the Soulsborne games are known for, with this being available as of the time of recording, but currently sits at mixed reviews, but $10 seems like an okay price for something like this. I'm not sure if you would exactly consider this to be indie, since developer Secret Door is an internal team at publisher Dreamhaven, which was founded by Blizzard co-founder Mike Morhaime and has funding backing the team. But indie or not, Sunderfolk might be of interest, a turn-based tactical RPG with a multiplayer component designed to emulate the camaraderie of tabletop game nights. Players use their phone as a controller to connect to the game, choosing from one of 6 anthropomorphic heroes, such as an Arcanist Crow or a Berserker Polar Bear, on a cooperative quest to protect the village of Arden from the encroaching corruption of Shadowstone. The game takes place on a shared hex-grid battlefield, while individual devices manage personal actions, inventory, and secret information. encouraging cooperation as players coordinate their moves in real time and adapt to dynamic battle conditions without a fixed turn order. Between missions, players return to Arden to visit vendors, acquire new equipment, and build relationships with the townsfolk, enriching the narrative experience. Looking ambitious, although I thought that the second screen experience didn't pan out in the past, but they are trying, so I'll at least be interested to see how this does. Developer Half Past Yellow is best known for their previous title, Time on Frog Island, a cute exploration adventure game, and they are back with Tempest Tower, one that does look kind of adorable as well, but is a tower defense title. You play as a janitor turned hero, defending the floating islands of Trip Space from the encroaching dark fog and spawn the creepers. This action-infused tower defense game blends strategy with real-time combat and platforming, allowing you to construct an array of buildings from spike traps to trampolines, along with more classic offensive towers during the build phase, and then to actively engage in combat by sweeping them with your broom or stomping on their heads in the action phase. Utilize the unique flora of the land, such as bomb berries and glide leaves, to outmaneuver and outwit your foes. This game features vertical, maze-like maps that expand as you dispel the fog by surviving waves, revealing new areas and strategic opportunities. Between waves, you can rescue friendly creatures, gather resources, and customize your loadout with draftable upgrades and bonuses, ensuring that each level offers fresh challenges and strategies, with a high score chase element to every level and is not a roguelite, looking like an interesting entry in this space. Apparently, cozy horror games are a thing now, which seems contradictory on the surface, but the contrast is what makes it unique, where in the Boba Teashop, you play as a woman in her 30s who leaves her corporate job to pursue her dream of opening a boba tea shop. The day-to-day activities includes preparing drinks, serving customers, and expanding your menu, but then things start to get weird as you start seeing visions and hearing things which might or might not be there, questioning your sanity, or perhaps there really is something haunting the shop. Do note that the content warning on Steam talks about depictions of unaliving oneself, as well as blood and other disturbing imagery, so know that going in. Switching gears, we also have the Steam release of World of Goo 2, the follow-up to a popular indie game which was a big hit on mobile, where this was a previous Epic Games Store exclusive and releases on the PC platform this week. You are constructing structures using a limited number of sentient goo balls per level to solve intricate physics-based puzzles to reach the exit pipe, and builds upon the mechanics of the original, with some new glue types such as liquid glue that flows like water, conduit glue that channels liquids, and glue balls that grow or shrink upon absorbing fluids. These add more variety and more puzzling to do, mixed in with various contraptions like launchers and terrain-altering machines for quite the impressive variety. It has over 60 levels across 5 distinct chapters, along with optional objectives such as completing levels within specific time limits or using fewer moves which offer additional replayability. But it also has an unlimited undo feature which allows for experimentation. I'll be curious to see the numbers behind this and how it will do on Steam, since it has been 17 years since the original. Oh god, we're all getting old, aren't we? And it's a very different gaming landscape. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. One more long-running series makes a return in Beholder Conductor, the 4th game in the series, all sharing similar character designs and setting, where you play as a character within a totalitarian state, in the employ of the government, which is where the moral dilemmas come in. In this new entry, you are a senior conductor aboard the Determination Bringer, a state-operated train traversing through the country, where your duties encompass monitoring passengers, enforcing regulations, and executing covert assignments for the ministry. Gameplay involves checking tickets, searching luggage, and observing behavior to identify fair invaders, smugglers, and dissidents. You have to compile reports and make decisions that can lead to promotions or disciplinary action, and with access to the VIP area, you can call out the wealthy industrialists or even your fellow colleagues if something is up. As you get promoted up the ranks, classified missions become available, presenting opportunities for greater influence or moral compromises, with your decisions affecting the direction of the story, having similarities to titles like Papers, Please and looks intriguing. An all-action title that sure looks like Armored Core but anime goes is Doll's Nest, where you play as a fully customizable frame unit, aka a mecha girl, tasked with exploring the vast, decaying factory world of Hod. This is a 3D mech action game which emphasizes fast-paced combat and strategic energy management, requiring you to balance offensive maneuvers with evasive actions, all of which consume a shared pool of energy. It has extensive customization options, allowing you to tailor your frame unit's weapons, armor, and abilities to suit various combat scenarios, mixing and matching parts to tackle different challenges. As you traverse Hod's labyrinthine environments, you'll encounter formidable bosses and uncover hidden areas, definitely drawing upon Armored Core and maybe Dark Souls as well, with a kind of PS3 era art style and looks good. This next title is from a technically independent studio, even if they do have a large team size, in which Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is a turn-based Japanese-style RPG that comes to us from a French developer, where I've noticed an interesting trend of French studios making turn-based RPGs for some reason, with titles like Edge of Eternity as well. So if you know more about this, do leave a comment sharing more below. You lead Expedition 33 in this game, a group of heroes tasked with slaying the Paintress, having an interesting story setup where the villain awakens once a year and paints literal death, writing down a number which erases everyone of that age. And, you guessed it, this year's number is 33, so our heroes have to stop her in order to live. This turn-based RPG integrates real-time elements, requiring precise timing for attacks, dodges, and parries during combat, where each character possesses unique mechanics that provide variety. It has a Belle Epoque-inspired world, blending surreal landscapes with a dark fantasy narrative, also having modern Final Fantasy-style visuals, so it is quite the curiosity, and I'm very interested about the reception to this. A funny thing happened last week, since the Command & Conquer-like RTS Tempest Rising was supposed to have some sort of early release access for people who paid for the higher tier as per most modern releases, but something screwed up on the back end, which meant that the game became available to everyone 1 week before the initial planned launch day, but the developers just went with it, so here we are, with it currently sitting at 2,700 Steam reviews and a very positive rating, so CNC fans, you probably want to pick this up. This game has two primary factions, the Global Defense Force or GDF, a high-tech peacekeeping coalition, and the Tempest Dynasty, a resourceful rebel faction utilizing the mysterious Tempest plant as a power source, being the parallel to GDI and Nod, where each faction offers unique units and strategies and are not simply reskins of each other. This has full-on classic RTS gameplay involving base building, resource management, building an army, and then leading your troops to crush your opponent, with two epic single-player campaigns, skirmish, custom game, and ranked multiplayer as well, with a third faction to be added later on, and is worth a play. Relative to other games on this list, this Match 3 survival horror comedy RPG Metroidvania might not have as much hype, but is the game that I'm personally most looking forward to, since I love my Match 3 titles and it has been a while since we had a great one of these, which makes Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3 of interest, being cool, quirky, and so indie games. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.